Welcome back to the next part in the game guide series. I know last time we covered Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, how that guide basically sets up the scene for what's going to be next for game guides and lays down the foundations for what makes a good game guide, kind of the average game guide, what we're going to base all other game guides on. Going into the next video in this series, I was, wondering, where do we go? There's a lot of different game guides behind me. I've got even more game guides. There's so many choices, right? This is what I have paper for. There's a lot of digital ones I have. There's just too many choices. And so I was parsing it and I was looking online and I found something pretty interesting. There's a couple of games that have a lot of different game guides for them just because they're prolific, or at the time it was just where there were lots of game guides made for those particular games. But one stood out that we kind of need to consider after viewing GTA San Andreas. And the one that stuck out to me and I thought made the most amount of sense is actually Grand Theft Auto 3. Grand Theft Auto 3 as a game basically changed everything. I cannot think of a more prolific game from that exact time period, except for maybe Morrowind. And so when viewing the game guide, you'd be hard-pressed to go past GTA 3 in terms of exploring how there can be more than one game guide for this game. And in particular, there's actually more than one game guide by the same author for Grand Theft Auto 3. This was a doozy. I really thought there was just one. Let's take a look at what makes them so different. There are two game guides for Grand Theft Auto 3. The first is for PS2, and the second PC. Makes sense. Came on in that order. PS2 first, PC next. The guides differ so greatly in length. And when I saw that, I had the guide. I said, let me get a PDF of it. And I downloaded a different guide entirely. It's a completely different guide. And I'm like, there's like over 100 more pages here. How does that happen? How do you get 100 more pages out of this? Now I get it. Grand Theft Auto is a big game, but that's a pretty big difference. So when I asked that question to myself, hey, why is that going on? I looked through the acknowledgement, as a respectable person should do. Check the acknowledgement. Hey, maybe that'll tell me why. And it told me why. I mean, it makes sense. It better tell me why. But here's what the first acknowledgement says, all right? The PS2 acknowledgement says, I would like to thank everyone at Rockstar/Take-Two New York office for making me feel at home for the 3 weeks I spent in the middle of your offices. I would especially like to thank the following people: Sam Hauser, Laura Patterson, Jeremy Pope, Adam Davidson, Jennifer Gross, Terry Donovan, and Jamie Leese. Without your day-to-day assistance, this could not have been possible. Thank you one and all. It was pretty surreal playing Grand Theft Auto 3 in the Big Apple while creating complete havoc in Liberty City. Unfortunately, the World Trade Towers were attacked the following week, and I was forced to leave virtual reality rather abruptly and deal with a whole new reality. My deepest condolences to those who have lost loved ones. A big thanks goes to my lovely wife, Jennifer, who had to pull both our duties at home during my stay in New York. Thanks, and I love you. Rockstar and DMA, your hard work and attention to detail in every facet have come beaming through Grand Theft Auto 3. Congratulations on such an enjoyable game. I mean, it makes sense why this guide's so short. It's coming out in 2001. It's hot on the heels of, GTA 2 being incredible, and this is the first one in, that 3D space. It's going to really change the world, and it does. And 9/11 changed the world, And they had to push the game back, and wouldn't it be seen in poor taste for Grand Theft Auto 3 to come out in that time? Makes sense to me. I'm actually surprised there wasn't a lot more pushback for Grand Theft Auto 3 at this time for coming out, right? Do also keep in mind that I don't know if anyone knew that Grand Theft Auto 3 was going to be this incredible masterpiece. I mean, it makes sense post hoc, right? That is going to be incredible. It's this open exploration that was not necessarily accessible to most gamers at that time. I mean, if you wanted a big world, you would probably play Fallouts 1 and 2, Wasteland, Daggerfall, Baldur's Gate, right? There were these high-impact tabletop games that you could play, but the average gamer, even then, wasn't really going to be playing some CRPGs. Even now, it's a miracle anyone played Baldur's Gate 3, let alone it becoming a global phenomenon. So it's a miracle this one even took off, right? So that first acknowledgement for the PS2 guide does let us know, hey, 9/11 happened. Definitely cut it a little short, right? Makes sense. A big societal malaise then, and like it's super stressful, looking at all that and seeing all that content there, and makes sense that it would have to be retooled and cut down. And I mean, it's an intense game for such an intense era. So then I got back and I pulled up the PC one and I said, what's the PC acknowledgement say? From Tim the OBGYN. My love for Grand Theft Auto 3 stems way back to the time I jacked my first Liberty City Auto on the PlayStation 2 back in August of 2001. 8 months later, I was asked to author the Grand Theft Auto 3 PC guide. Even after playing through the PS2 version enough to write the original guide, I was excited and jumped at the opportunity. You see, I never stopped playing Grand Theft Auto 3 since August of 2001. When a game can be played continually for over half a year and still bring enjoyment, euphoria, and curiosity, it says a lot. Beyond the satisfaction of playing the game a few more times, I was even more delighted to add features to this guide that I didn't have the time to include in the PS2 guide. And with Tim Cox's phenomenal assistance, as well as his passion for the game, time is no longer the enemy. We are proud to bring you the most comprehensive Grand Theft Auto 3 guide in existence. Enjoy. Makes sense, Get a second chance. Don't really get a lot of second chances in life for projects like that, especially something as important as Grand Theft Auto 3. Yeah, man. They took that second chance and really fleshed it out. What was once a good guidebook on, getting you through the story and taking some looks at things, now is expanded to include the side stuff, to include deeper techniques, to include options beyond just do the mission. Very deep. It's fantastic. It's just such a brilliant opportunity to do it again when the game definitely deserves the best it can get. With these acknowledgments in mind, let's go ahead and take a look at the vast size differences between the PS2 and PC game guides. When given the opportunity to write the guide again, Tim, the OBGYN, brought on Tim Cox, and they both sat down and cracked it out. PS2 guide, barely 100 pages. PC guide, well over 200. So where does that distance come from, right? Where do these extra pages get added? It's the same game. Nothing was really added between the versions I can think of. So why is it so vastly different? Start by going to the table of contents. The PS2 guide, within the first chapter, which is your introduction and game basics, contains 15 pages of content. The PC guide contains 16. That's a one-page difference, right? That's not a huge difference. But we will investigate that one-page difference, and you'll find that the PC guide, though it may have one more page in Chapter 1, contains way more information in those 16 pages than the PS2 guide could cover in 15. The second chapter, Portland, contains 33 pages in the PS2 guide and 63 pages in the PC guide. That's a 30-page difference, 91% longer. Chapter 3, Staten Island, no relation to Staten Island, zero relation. Why would you think that? You're nuts. The PS2 guide is 25 pages, and the PC guide is 53. That's pretty different. That's a 28-page difference. 112% longer in the PC guide. 112%. Okay, we're starting to see we got some 28 more pages there. Definitely get that. Definitely get that. Now, Chapter 4, Shoreside Vale, PS2, 24 pages. PC, 44. Difference, 20 pages, 83% longer. Definitely longer. Definitely longer. Here's the kicker. The fifth chapter there is Secrets. Now, the PS2 guide has a section explicitly labeled Secrets. The PC guide, it's chapter 5 and 6 combined, but they're fundamentally what the PS2 guide has is just a little deeper. So let's go ahead and run that out. Let's just call them both chapter 5 secrets because that's fundamentally what they are. The PS2 guide had 7 pages dedicated to secrets. The PC guide had 56. That's a 49-page differential, 700% longer for the PC guide and the PS2 guide. The final 67% of the guide, meaning Staten Island and Shoreside Vale, are significantly longer in the PC guide and the PS2 counterpart. The secret section includes the taxi, paramedic, vigilante, rampage, and cheat codes in the PC version, which were barely even touched in the PS2 version. I mean, the secret section is really where that depth comes in. Yeah, Staten Island, Shoreside Vale, chunky, and its secrets just fill it in. And it's just an incredible guide with so much more detail there. Let's go ahead and compare the differences between the sections with the PS2 and PC guides and see how they stack up. The first section, Chapter 1, is your introduction and game basics. That's where they tell you, hey, this is what the game's about, this is how you play the game, everything like that. The PS2 guide has a little introduction that the PC guide doesn't have. It's nothing big, it's like a splash page, introduces you to the game. It's a little kitschy, and I have a theory that's why they cut it from the PC guide. The introduction reads as such. Grand Theft Auto 3 takes place in Liberty City, a completely unique universe with its own laws, standards, ethics, and morals, or lack thereof. There are dozens of ways to take out the inhabitants. Punches, kicks, headbutts, baseball bats, handguns, Uzis, AK-47, shotguns, M16, sniper rifles, rocket launchers, grenades, Molotov cocktails, and flamethrowers. You must work your way through the pecking order of the gangs, receive better jobs, and eventually meet, use, and extinguish bigger bosses. However, there is an opposing force that will try to thwart your objectives, harmful as they may be. Liberty City's law enforcement includes cops, SWAT teams, FBI agents, and the Army. They all work cooperatively to keep Liberty City moderately protected and acceptably corrupt. Liberty City is divided into 3 districts: Portland, Staten Island, and Shoreside Vale. Each has its own look and feel, with different styles of buildings, cars, and inhabitants. Bridges, subways, and tunnels connect these 3 areas. If one of these options can't get you there, you can take a boat across the bay and dock in the next district. There are hundreds of pedestrians throughout Liberty City, each with their own unpredictable characteristics. Businessmen hustle to work, bums get in the way, gang members look for trouble, and hookers prowl for business. These characters act and react to situations and the activities surrounding them in their own unique way. Even if you did nothing but walk the streets meddling in the affairs of its citizens, you would still be blissfully submerged into the Liberty City universe. But that, indeed, is not all you will be doing. You're going to get involved on a much more active level. Let the crime wave begin. I don't love that introduction. You wonder why they cut it. Let's start with the fundamental thing of like dozens of ways to take out the inhabitants. That's like 16. It's not dozens. That's a baker's dozen and the baker can't count. That's fine. I get it. I can't count. That's not dozens. That's a dozen and change. What do you mean dozens? Secondly, they kind of just laid out the particular nuance of the game, I suppose, that like you're in a city and the city has volition. Are we talking about Grand Theft Auto? Or are we talking about Sex in the City here? What are we doing here? What's the goal with this, right? It's almost like this is an abstract that you find on like JSTOR or something and say, this is what to look in this research paper. And I go, sure, man, I guess I'll take a look. So you wonder why they cut it, right? So they trimmed that out, say get out of here, totally get it. No need for the introduction in the PC guide. With all that in mind, the next section covers your controls, the nuances of the games like your wanted level, your stats menu, and the main players in the game, right? The main characters. So starting with controls, there's a pretty big difference between the PS2 guide and the PC guide. The PS2 guide has a significantly worse layout than the PC guide. The PS2 guide lists your out-of-car controls and your in-car controls as a top-down situation, whereas the PC guide has them listed flush to one another as a column situation, right? Using columns and rows rather than just tables and sticking it down there. Pretty different there. With that in mind, you even shave off another half page by moving over the Save Your Game section from that one page on the right for the PS2 guide, just below controls, ready to go. You've optimized your page space in the PC guide compared to the PS2 guide with just that section alone. But it gets deeper, right? The PS2 guide lists your getting wasted or busted in hospitals, right? Various things that you get arrested, you do this. Okay, fine. Talk about health tips and that. PC guide does too. But the PS2 guide only lists the 6 wanted levels in the game and not the level in which you unlock them. Grand Theft Auto 3 has a very strict gradient in how it unlocks your wanted level. Within Portland, you get 4 stars, Staten Island 5, and Shoreside Vale 6. The PC guide lists all those 6. The PS2 guide lists the 6 straight up. This is what you do. You get the Liberty City Police Department for the first 2, SWAT level for the next 2, and then you get FBI and Army involved for 5 and 6. The PC guide, however, lays it out a little bit deeper. First 2 levels, Police Department. Next 2 levels, SWAT. Final 2 levels, FBI and Army. Makes sense, but it gives you that city gradient. It also gives you a screenshot of what it could look like when you reach those there. Seeing a screenshot for what the chaos could look like is really helpful in trying to gauge what you're looking at doing in this game. The PS2 guide just doesn't have the space for it, but the PC guide being optimized lays out everything and more within those same page limitations. Absolutely incredible there. The PS2 guide and PC guide both list stats, right? It lists that, hey, there are stats in this game, and you can get them. The PS2 guide doesn't tell you a lot about the stats. It tells you 4 stats. It says in the guide explicitly, the in-game statistics menu is huge. It tracks everything. Check this menu frequently to see where you stand as a criminal and keep track of, well, just about everything. Most of the categories are self-explanatory, but there's a few you may question. The following is a brief description of more confusing categories. Helicopters destroyed? How is that confusing? Kilograms of explosives used? I'll give you that. Unique jumps completed? Pickups found? The ones that they listed as, like, confusing, kilograms of explosive used, I guess that's confusing. The PC guide, however, lists it all, baby. It's got your criminal rating. What does it mean? It's got your percentage completed, mission attempts, mission passed, gang members wasted. I mean, it goes all the way down the list and lays it all flat. And it's great that it tells you about it. It's so long, I'm not even going to read them all. Here they are. Take a look at these. There's so many. And the other one's like, yeah, man, here's some kilograms of bombs. Cool, but like, not salient. Out of every stat there. Why is that? The criminal rating's way more confusing than kilograms of explosives used. The final section in the introduction, I find this section fantastic. I think this section's great in both guides, is the section that lists the main players. The main people in the game you'll be interacting with throughout your journey. Some longer than others, but they're all listed, and they're nice. It's nice to see your fellow criminals. The PS2 guide simply lists it top down, boom, boom, here's everyone, right? Not in alphabetical nor introductory order, I believe. So just simply 8-Ball, Luigi, Joey, Tony, Salvatore, Asuka, Kenji, and Donald. List them all flat. Pretty cool. The PC guide, however, takes up an extra page for it, but flexes. The PC guide's flex is incredible. You've got 8-Ball, Luigi, and Joey on the left page. You've got Tony, Asuka, Kenji, Donald, and Salvatore on the right page. It's the coolest. The other one's like, here's a little headshot. It's me. I'm a criminal. The other one is like full body shots, profile, list it all, cool action. It's so much better. The PS2 guide for this section alone is so unoptimized that the PC guide can flex on it and still only be a page longer. This is just the introduction, and the PC guide is already like heads and shoulders above. Much love to the PS2 guide. Does a great job as like a travel book, but it doesn't lay down the foundation. It doesn't lay down the facts that make GTA 3 so incredible. It gets you through it, but only just. The meat of the guide begins in Chapter 2, the section that covers Portland. There are huge differences between the way the PS2 guide handles it and the PC guide handles it. The PS2 guide goes straight into the first mission. Give Me Liberty, tells you about the damaged bridge, tells you some in-game tips, tells you about automotive care. Doesn't give you much beyond that. It just says, hey, you're breaking out of jail, get to it, be safe, be smart, be illegal. Which is great. We love that. Illegality is our favorite. But the PC guide takes a little bit more pride in its opening. The PC guide had time to mull over what exactly was going on there. Take a look at the splash page at the beginning of the PC guide. The PC guide begins with a map of the sections of Portland and a little blurb about the hidden packages. Anyone who's played GTA 3 knows of these hidden packages, and as you unlock more of them, you get more and more weapons and abilities to explore the map. The guide here has a blurb right out the gate before the first mission that says, it's highly recommended to collect the hidden packages in Portland before diving into the missions. Granted, you have to complete the first mission, Give Me Liberty, but after that, you should begin the hunt for hidden packages. The weapon power-ups that appear at your hideout are priceless, and they save you from having to hunt down the power-ups hidden in and around Portland. There are 33 hidden packages in Portland. You can collect all but 2 of them after completing the first mission. After completing Salvatore's final mission, Last Request, you can collect the remaining 2 packages. See the callouts for 16 and 33. You can collect them once the subway is opened and after you gain access to a boat. We also suggest completing 20 vigilante missions, the paramedic missions, and 20 firefighter challenges before taking any jobs from the crime bosses. If you collect 30 hidden packages in Portland and complete the vehicle missions as suggested, you should have a handgun, grenade, Uzi, 2 police bribes, health, adrenaline power-ups, all at your hideout. The advantages to taking this approach go beyond the various power-ups gathered at your hideout. All this running around builds up your endurance, thus enabling you to run for longer periods of time. Taking all the special vehicle side jobs helps you learn your way around the streets of Portland. And above all, it's the best to do this in the beginning of the game, so you don't have to contend with the gangs that you'll be double-crossing on your way up the crime ladder. Wiping out members of the different gangs within the crime boss missions causes the gangs to attack whenever you enter their turf. Now, this is a really helpful hint, and I am surprised it never made it into the initial guide, if only because this is actually guiding. This will save you a lot of stress and difficulty if you do this right. Bit of backstory here. When I played this game the first time, it was the PS4 version, which I believe was based on the mobile phone version and like upscaled and uprendered. It's an interesting port that is not great, but arguably better than the actual remaster. Whole thing, a lot of issues. Long story longer, I didn't know about on this playing it. First played it back in like 2016, 17, somewhere in there. And I remember playing it and going, wow, it's really hard. I get and blow up every 2 seconds. Yeah, because you probably should have got these first. And then, you know, if I followed the guide from Tim the OBGYN, would have had an easier time. So that is genuinely a helpful tip. It does kind of give you some spoilers and that you will be double-crossing the crime bosses. But I guess you bought a game guide for the game you're trying to play, so at that point, I guess the onus is on you. With that blurb in mind, the next page in the PC guidebook does have that same Give Me Liberty introductory mission, but you'll notice the damaged bridge callout on that page there is way more interesting than the kind of ill-placed police report callout in the PS2 guide. And so this PC guide not only has a better art design to bring it all together, but the lines bisecting the paragraphs tell you these are how the mission's going to play out, and it gives you easier screenshots to view as you play the game. All in all, even just the first page of the main content, way better. You really can't beat it. It's just way better. The second mission in the game, by Luigi, Don't Spank 'Em a Bitch Up, is all about getting a vehicle, changing it up, and having it ready to go for the next mission. The top of the PS2 guide has a blurb that says if you need a weapon, you must first exit a vehicle to pick it up. You cannot run through a weapon while in a car to obtain it. That's all it tells you. It just expects you to follow along, fight the people, hit them, get the car, move on. The PC guide, however, has a decent deviation where it has an advanced strategy at the bottom of the page. It says, if you collected enough hidden packages to make the handgun or the Uzi appear at your hideout, you could easily target and shoot the spank pusher. It's awesome. It not only ties in the very first splash page that says, hey, you might want to get these items, but it tells you if you get these items by the second mission, you're already cruising. You already got a fully automatic handgun. You're good to go. We love that. Just a fantastic little piece that ties in the initial hint with an actual mission. A lot of consistency between the guide there. Now, I know we initially noted the PC guide had advanced strategies. This is not to say the PS2 guide didn't. The PS2 guide here actually has alternative strategies. In this case, the alternative strategy for this mission, Pump Action Pimp, is just keep banging their car up with yours until either one is about to explode, then flee the scene before the exploding car takes them both out. Cool. We love turning our vehicle into a battering ram and crushing the opponents until it explodes. That's definitely exciting. The PC guide is a little different here. The PC guide has the same hints to pump action, the same persistent driver, and it has the same gun stocked below it. But rather than focusing on, hey, just batter it until it explodes, the advanced strategy here says, finding 20 hidden packages gets you the Uzi. Use the drive-by shooting move to plug their car full of lead, then remain in your car for the added protection and pop the 2 hoodlums when they bail out. If you need to bail out of your smoking vehicle, run away from them with your vehicle between you and the hoodlums, and they will run near your car as it explodes. If the explosion doesn't get them, select the Uzi and keep moving as you target the 2 thugs, one after the other, until the reward money is yours. The PC guide lays it out flat. Get the hidden packages, reap the benefits, and cruise through this opening part of the game by having tools ready to go. It's grossly consistent. Note the way the boxes lie in the PC guide and how well defined the advanced strategy is. It doesn't exist as simply an interlay between the 2 green text boxes, and instead is held separate. The other ones give you tips, but this one says, hey, call your eye to this. Do the advanced strategy. Consider that. over some of the others. The next mission worth noting in the PS2 guide is the Fuzzball. This is the mission where you have to pick up a bunch of sex workers using cars, drop them off, and move on. Pretty savvy, right? Not a difficult mission per se. It's a little optimized. You have to have a route because it's timed, and if you mess it up, you have some issues. But all you gotta do is just simply move the people, go on. The PS2 guide doesn't have a lot to say about it. It simply lists them in the areas you can go and who you need to pick up, and not necessarily the best way to do it, but a way to do it. It lays out, hey, start from Luigi's, go to the next block, pick them up, continue south, pick them up. If you can pick up 3, that's great. Go back, drop them off, keep going, right? You only need X amount of them, but it's very possible you could get more. The top of the PS2 guide does mention the bus station, right? Where it says, if you thought about bringing the bus, you're not alone. The bus will fit everyone that needs to be picked up, but you may run out of time because it's so slow. Definitely reasonable, but it says may run out of time, right? It acknowledges the fact that it might be possible to do it with the bus, we just don't know. The PC guide takes the assumption that you could fill your vehicle with 3 girls, drop them off at the ball, and quickly go back for more until you run out of time, or if you're feeling lazy and greedy, try using a bus. If you don't go with the bus idea, be sure to pick up the police car from the old school hall on your return trips. Using the siren works like a charm to park the traffic. The PC guide assumes you probably want to do the bus strat. It has an advanced strategy dedicated for the bus strat, complete with a map, with south labeled so you know kind of where you're starting and where you're going. There's really no reason to not use the bus. The first guide acknowledges you could, but it doesn't have it mapped out. The second guide goes, what if you did the bus? What if you got that 2,000 extra bonus? You can easily do it if you follow this route. It starts you off north of the bus station, getting 1, 2, 3, 4, looping all the way down south, and ending back at B. So long as you have the bus to start, you're good to go. It also includes screenshots for the various people you need to pick up. Starts from point A, pick up the coach from bus station before you take the job. B, park the coach facing north in front of Luigi's Club in the red light district, then enter the alley to take the job. And then, once you've done that, you can hop on the bus, go where you need to go, from then on, pick them up, and make it work. The PS2 guide presupposes you don't have the bus, that you're going to get the bus in the middle of the mission. The PC guide has a little more thought to it. The PC guide goes, what if you started with the bus, then start the mission, and then drive them on? And in this case, it thinks about the game holistically, once again, similar to the secret packages and using the early unlocked weapons in earlier missions, rather than simply ramming the other vehicle with your vehicle until one of you explodes. In as much as I like to play chicken with my car, that's a better strategy. The PC guide is more cohesive, consistent, and altogether better designed. Lays things out flatter out the gate in the very first area, and doesn't think twice about it. The credit I will give the PS2 guide, however, is it is still deeply funny, and has a lot of good jokes in it, and a lot of clever writing to give it an edge over other guides of the era. Very savvy in its references, and it knows what it's doing. The PC guide has similar jokes to it baked in, but it does a little more with the spacing. The PS2 and PC guide have the same joke for Salvatore 5 Last Requests. It has a joke that says, don't fear the reefer, followed by, see, package. These 2 sections are included in the PS2 guide. They're fundamentally the same in the PS2 guide. The PC guide just happens to have more detail, so we're just going to focus on that one. Simply mentions, hey, you got to take your boat and drive it where you need to go. The see the package section, however, has more to it in the PC guide than the PS2 guide. The PS2 guide simply says, hey, you can find a hidden package in the water, your boat may float away, and you may end up in the hospital, but you will get it picked up. Reasonable, right? Annoying that you have to eat a death, but I get it. The PC guide, however, says, you'll still have your package if you end up in the hospital, but you can run the boat onto the rocks a little bit so it will slowly float back to sea, giving you enough time to nab the package and return to the boat. Savvy. Rather than just simply going, yeah, you're probably going to drown, the PC guide goes, you might drown. Very possible. Everybody can drown. Water's scary, but you couldn't make it back if you put your boat in a good enough place. As we established in the first part of the guide where we viewed the page differentials leading up to this point, it's worth noting the PS2 guide's up to page 46, the PC guide's up to 68. The next section of the guide is naturally going to be Staten Island, second big island you go to in this game. Much like Portland, Staten Island begins straight up, cold turkey, first mission, let's go in the PS2 guide. The PC guide continues the tradition of listing the hidden packages and side jobs you might want to do. By the time you're into Staten Island, when the game starts to get a little harder, you're ready to go, rocking and rolling, weapons loaded. We recommend that you collect all the hidden packages possible in Staten Island before you take any Staten Island crime boss missions. There are 36 hidden packages. 35 can be collected without completing one Staten Island mission. Hidden package 49, located above the center median of Shoreside Vale drawbridge, cannot be collected until you've at least taken Donald Love's job, Grand Theft Arrow. This will open the bridge to Shoreside Vale, the tunnel, and the subway. If you've collected the 33 hidden packages from Portland and the 35 possible from Staten Island, you'll have the handgun, Uzi, grenades, shotgun, armor, and Molotov cocktails at your hideout before you take the first Staten mission. Complete 20 more Vigilante Police missions for 2 more police bribes, and you'll be able to ward off a wanted level of 4, provided you unlock the first 2 back in Portland. You can enter the back of the garage to regenerate the 4 police bribes if you've caused more trouble than that. Again, the advantage of doing all this goes far beyond the new power-ups appearing at your hideout. You'll build up running endurance and learn the streets of Staten Island long before you have to find your way around the city in the limited amount of time that some of the boss missions allow. It also has a list of what you unlocked at ammunition. You can unlock the shield, grenades, Uzi, sniper rifles, and AK-47 when you arrive to Staten Island. From this point on, we're going to be focusing on mostly the PC guide with select screenshots from PS2. The main reason for this, we've established the PS2 guide contains less information than the PC guide. Therefore, it feels moot to cover the same section in the PS2 guide as the PC guide. We can kind of fill in the details. Hey, the PC guide has this additional info, the PS2 guide does not. I'm not going to waste your time with it. It's very clear that they're going to have some differentials here that'll increase those differences in page lengths and increase the amount of details included in the PC guide. The last major difference I want to highlight explicitly in the main missions for the PS2 guide compared to the PC guide is that first mission in Staten Island, Sayonara Salvatore. For those who are not familiar with the flow of GTA 3, when you reach a new island, you're wrapping up business at the prior island. So in terms of what's happening here, you just finished your last mission with Salvatore. Now you're hanging out with the Yakuza who want you to, hey, clean up what you just did with Salvatore, right? Wrap that sign up and move on. So that first mission has you eliminating the leader of the Mafia, Salvatore. Sayonara Salvatore in the PS2 guide doesn't list a lot of ways to take out Salvatore. The PS2 guide says there are plenty of ways to take care of this business. You can use stealth with a sniper rifle, go in with guns blazing, or even chase him off the cliff near his mansion. But the ambush is the most entertaining way to eliminate the Don. Just stop here. Okay, let's put a pin in this here. Big pin, call that a knife. Put a big pin here. And let's take a pause. It acknowledges the fact there's many ways to go about eliminating Salvatore, but it doesn't necessarily tell you ways to do it. It says you can do it this way, but why not set him up with an ambush? I get it. We love a good ambush. Big fan. Any Bonnie and Clyde fans in chat? Big fan. Here's the deal. The fact that it acknowledges it is one thing, but it doesn't go into detail. It simply presupposes you could just shoot him. What if you didn't? So it goes in and it lists, hey, if you don't have the flamethrower, you can get it from over here. Awesome. No worries. You can also use Molotov cocktails. It also lists how to find the flamethrower, and it also shows how to block him if you'd like to by using the Callahan Bridge. Cool. We love that. That makes sense. The PC guide, surprising no one, lists many different ways that you can do it. In fact, the PC guide doesn't even bother listing sniping or doing it. Here's what it says. There are so many ways to waste Salvatore that we could do a whole book on this job alone. The following strategies are quick, somewhat safe, and simple ambush tactics. Very clearly says, hey, you can do more than what we list here, but here's what we suggest. First one, blocking the garage. If Salvatore enters his garage, you fail the mission, because you know where he's going to be and win. Drive to Salvatore's mansion in Portland Beach and park his 2 Mafia sedans in front of the garage to the right, the one where you parked his limo. You can even put the car in which you drove up in front of these 2. The more explosions, the better. Now that Salvatore can enter the garage, more options can become available. There's a number of ways to waste Salvatore inside his car as he tries desperately to enter the garage. You can stand behind the stair barriers and torch the cars with the flamethrower or Molotov cocktails. You can stand on the balcony and toss grenades to annihilate all the cars in the area, thus taking out the Don. Or you can stand in the grass across from the mansion, face the garage, and fire the M16, throw grenades, or hurl Molotovs into the scurrying vehicles. It says, hey, You can do all these things, and all you had to do was block it. Have fun. It's a fish in a barrel. Tragic fish in a barrel. Very morbid fish in a barrel. Shout out to shooting fish in a barrel. Then it lists the service entrance ambush, right? Pick up the sniper rifle from the location hidden on the Stoughton weapons map in this guide, or you can buy a couple from ammunition. Ignore the warning the game displays. Head through the alley to access the back of Luigi's club, then climb the stairs across the rooftops that overlook the club. Jump on to the roof and pick Salvatore as he exits the club. Placing your car next to the back stairs forces Salvatore to walk around it to reach the alleyway to the street. This buys you more time to get the perfect shot. If you're not the best sharpshooter, toss grenades or molotovs down into the mob. If you still miss him and he reaches the street, jump on the opposite side of the roof down to the street below, run around the corner of the building, toss grenades at the Mafia sentinels. The blast of the grenades and the car explosions will dispose him in or out of the getaway car. Sick. Snipe him as he leaves. Skip the whole mission. Don't even bother getting to his house. Just take him out when he goes. Block his pathing and shoot. Woody's topless bar, the third strategy it lists, mentions that Woody wouldn't mind you using his rooftop to take out the competition's most respected customer. Park your car or group of cars in front of the entrance to Luigi's back alley, then go around inside of Woody's topless bar, directly across the street, and enter the alley. Ascend the stairs and on the rooftops. Jump onto the ledge that overlooks Luigi's club. Keep your eye on the cars blocking the alley to his service entrance so they don't disappear. When Salvatore's bodyguards leave the building, they'll get stuck behind the car-blocked alley. These mobsters are trying to get to the 3 Mafia sentinels that have pulled up in front of the club. Sometimes they may be able to move the cars and drive them from the alley. If these guys don't reach their cars or die, Salvatore may never leave the club. If you use a sniper rifle on the gangsters, be prepared to watch your back. The Mafia will send out soldiers to hunt you down, and they will find you on the rooftop. Watch your back. The best thing to do is not shoot them, but drop grenades on the Mafia cars and the cars blocking the alley. The explosions will take out all the mobsters who are trapped behind them. When Salvatore exits the alley, he'll have no wheels and little to no support from the Mafia. Snipe, shoot him, or toss more grenades and molotovs down in the street to finish him off. The PC guide is basically saying torture this man. It's basically saying he's trying to get home, ruin his life, ruin his day, ruin his family. Block his garage, blow him up. Snipe him by blocking the door, or blow him up. Demolish his cars and his friends, or blow him up. Pretty ruthless, man. Tim the OBGYN's pretty brutal. Really solid tactics in the PC guide. Tells you, hey, rather than you could do this, here's what we're going to tell you to do. Or find your own way. Sky's the limit. You're in Liberty City, baby. Make it work. At the end of one of the missions, there is an advanced strategy that says 20 vigilante missions will set you free. If you've completed at least 20 vigilante missions in Portland, then you'll have 2 police bribes at your hideout. Use these to clear the remaining wanted level and just drive the enforcer to the drop-off location. The advanced strategy ties in with the advanced strategy at the beginning of each section, saying, just collect the stuff, do the missions, play it safe. If you don't collect the collectibles, do the things you need to do, you're going to have a bad time. If you follow the directions in the guide, you'll be able to get through the game faster, more efficiently, safer, and with little headaches. The second Donald Love mission in Staten Island is called Wakagashira Wipeout. You have to kill the Yakuza member Kenji Kazan. For those who haven't played GTA 3, it's been out for over 20 years. You should probably go play it. It's worth your time. Not super long. Pretty good, though. If you kill Kenji, you can't finish Kenji's quests if you haven't done them. Now, I don't know about you. I'm a 100% kind of guy. I've got over 120 platinums. I've got over 200,000 gamer score. It's something I enjoy doing. It's fun. It's simple. Gets me more action from my games. We like it. If I were to play through this whole game, kill Kenji before finishing his work, and not be able to get the 100%, I think I'd be mad. The PS2 guide makes no mention of that. It just says, you can kill him. The PC guide, however, has a blurb that says, hit Kenji. Make sure that you've taken all of Kenji's jobs before you knock him off. You won't reach 100% complete on the stat screen, and you'll miss out on some good fun and serious cash if you waste him before you're through with his jobs. Definitely worth keeping in mind. If you want to beat the game fully, the PS2 guide will not stop you from ruining your playthrough. Now, the PS2 guide, much like the PC guide, does have the Kenji missions up front, so if you do, in fact, miss out on this, you just skipped around in the guide. So, in sincerity, the onus is still on the player because the guide doesn't jump around and say Donald Love first. It definitely lists that at the end. I like that the PC guide explicitly lists, you can miss it. If you're not savvy, watch out. Would hate to not have the 100% just because of a silly mess up like that. Have to collect everything again? Nah, man. I'd just quit, play Ratchet and Clank or something. That wraps up Staten Island. Pretty big differences between the PS2 guide and the PC guide here. The PC guide is clearly beefier. A lot more advanced objectives, a lot more advice, a lot more tips, a lot more tricks as compared to the PS2 guide. As we're wrapping up the second section here for these guides, the PS2 guide is at page 74 and the PC guide is at page 121. That is a 47 total page difference. That's a lot more content. The PC guide, as a reminder, has way better page layouts as compared to the PS2 guide. If the PS2 guide were to contain the same amount of information as the PC guide, but using the PS2 layout, I fear the PS2 guide would have 80 pages per section as compared to the optimized 47 extra. The final island, Shoreside Vale, naturally is way better in the PC guide than the PS2 guide. Much like the other sections, Shoreside Vale begins by telling you, hey, you might want to get all the hidden packages. It reads, as we have recommended before, when you enter a new island, collect all the hidden packages before you take any Shoreside Vale missions. There are 36 hidden packages left, all of which can be collected without completing a single Shoreside Vale job. If you've collected all the hidden packages from Portland, Staunton Island, and now Shoreside, you'll have all the weapons in the game available at your hideout, except the flamethrower from the fire truck side missions. There's nothing like loading up on a free rocket launcher to get the party started. Make sure to complete 20 more vigilante missions for final police bribes, making it easy to ward off the highest wanted level, provided you unlocked the others while you were in Portland and Staunton. Again, the reward for all your hard work goes far beyond the new power-ups that appear at your hideout. You build up even more running endurance and become skilled at navigating the streets of Shoreside Vale long before you take any missions. Everything besides the flamethrower is all you really need. And honestly, if you were playing GTA 3 back in the day, you made it to this point, and you didn't use any cheat codes for the rocket launcher, we all know you're lying. Here's what I consider the best advanced strategy for the game. There is a mission where you have to protect Donald Love, get the car to the next location in Shoreside Vale. Not a difficult mission. You have to drive alongside it and shoot the other vehicles attacking it and protect it. There's an advanced strategy in this guide that goes, hey, what if you just rejected that and didn't even play the game? Check this out. We're not sure if this is advanced or just lazy, but it definitely sucks the fun out of the mission. Drive up to the Secura car in Donald Love's garage and let it go. Just let it go on its own. The game is programmed to allow the Secura car to make it safely to its destination in Shoreside Vale. Granted, once it reaches its destination, you'll have to go check on it, enter Shoreside Vale, to complete the mission and receive the payment. This is a great tip. Most games designed before, 2005, can be beaten in similar fashions to this, where if you reject the notion of playing it and let the AI play it out without player intervention, a lot of the games are designed with the player in mind, that if the player is doing X, Y, Z, then the game reacts to it. But if the player doesn't, the game will still move on, and then the player can continue after the fact. Why would I play the game when the game can play itself for me? I don't want to play games. I've played too many games. I'm bored. Play it for me, please. Thank you, Tim, the OBGYN. You got me covered here. I don't want to play this game. Thanks, bro. Arguably, the coolest part of GTA 3 is the finale. Reaching Catalina, trying to save your partner, and making sure you can beat the game as efficiently as possible. It's a decent finale, a lot of fun, a lot of lead up to that ending there. And the initial game guide doesn't tell you much. The PS2 game guide here just basically says, take it slow, take it smart, it's tough. There's a rocket launcher if you want to find it on the roof. Have fun getting it. Best of luck, gamer. The PC guide, however, goes into a lot more detail comparatively. It has a standard strategy and an advanced strategy. Now, it does give a piece of advice for both strategies where you want to find a sex worker and have them give you extra health points. Great. Always a classic. Extra health is nice in this mission, although if you're going to lose the mission, 25 health probably won't save you, but hey, much up to the extra health, I suppose. The other advice it gives is to get the bulletproof car from completing Ray's missions, which is, it's nice, it's helpful. You know, it's good to have bulletproof items just in order to best get through one of the harder missions in the game. At the bottom of the first page of the final mission, it does say, have you collected all the hidden packages? If you've collected all 100 hidden packages, you'll have a rocket launcher at your Wichita Gardens hideout with 20 shells loaded. If you have this, skip strategy 1 and flip to the following advanced strategy for this mission. Ties it all back together, right? You follow the guy into a T, you get to the last mission, you're rewarded with something a little more interesting than just strategy 1. You're rewarded with an advanced strategy, which we all love. Advanced things. Game Boy Advance? Classic. Advanced calculus? Everybody loves that. Who doesn't love what's under a curve? And then some. Advanced chemistry. Org, please. Strategy 1 mirrors what's in the PS2 guide. Before you begin the mission, you can find the rocket launcher power-up, practice jumping to it, head behind the garage on foot, stand behind the hill, look to the pink house, practice your running jump, you can get up there. Once you can get up there and get your rocket launcher, you're good to go to kind of wipe the mission out, right? That's kind of the practice, the speed run strat, I suppose, to getting your rocket launcher fast. You can clear the vehicles and have enough for a helicopter down the line. Once you eventually take out the chopper, right, the game's over and you do it, right? That's pretty much it for that strategy. You jump on the roof, get the rocket launcher, take your time, get there, blast it. Now, where the guide gets more interesting is the advanced strategy. And the advanced strategy takes into account the fact that you just have a rocket launcher at your base. You could just go back to your base, kit up, and kick it. This one has entirely different routing compared to the non-advanced strategy. You can actually see the difference in routing in the maps included. It's nice the maps are included in this guide because it does show you, hey, if you go this way, you can do this, but if you take the advanced strategy, you stop by home, get more stuff, and then kick it to the end. So the advanced strategy, as established before, presupposes you're looking to get to your hideout, and it lists in the exact order you need to do it, because the entire goal is to get back to your base as quickly as possible, to go, take out the helicopter, and move on. It starts by saying, park a Patriot outside, begin the mission entering the blue marker. As you break free, keep in mind you don't need anything, just get out of there as quickly as possible, grab the handgun, squeeze out the gate, and enter your Patriot. Slowly drive the Patriot over the cliffside south to the guardrail. This will help a water hazard if things go bad. If you play the 4x4 challenges, you should be able to maintain a semblance of control as you descend the hillside. The entrance to the picnic areas of Wichita Gardens is at the bottom of the cliff. Drive out the park, up the sloped roadway near the D-Ice phone booth, enter your hideout, and run through all your weapon power-ups, including the body armor. Exit your lot and drive straight over the south cliff across the street. This will put you on a road that leads to the Porter Tunnel. Turn right when you land on the road and take this all the way to the first Colombian roadblock at the dam. There are 20 shells in the rocket launcher. You have more shells than targets, so just go nuts. Shoot the 2 roadblocks to take out the obstruction and the guards around them. Shoot the explosive barrels to take out the guards, and take out the barracks OL as soon as it starts to move. You can shoot the helicopter as soon as it makes its first flyby. Shoot the helipad platform below the Colombian standing on its edge to send him flying in a million pieces. The only thing you need to be careful with is not to fire shells to take out the 2 guards flanking Maria. Snipe them from the stairs and run to Maria to end the mission. With this strategy, you can be rid of the helicopter with 3 minutes or a little more remaining on the clock. So if you have difficulty controlling the Patriot over the cliffside as you leave the Colombian mission, you could go the long way. Take the long winding road down to your hideout, then take the shortcut over the hillside near your hideout to the dam. There's a lot to unpack here in this section. The first most noticeable thing is it mentions completing everything up to this point. It says if you do the 4x4 challenges, you should be good to go. You get all the packages, you have a rocket launcher ready to go, you have the special vehicle for doing the other missions. It fundamentally says you follow this guide to a T. By the time you get here, you're ready to go. The guide doesn't set you up for that initially. It's not going to say, hey, if you follow this perfectly, you're going to have a great time. The implicit assumption with a guide is that following it will make the game easier. At least it should. It should open doors for you that you did not consider opening yourself. Not that you wouldn't consider getting all the hidden packages, but it lists why rather than you having to explore and figure it out yourself. Anyone who's ever got any amount of collectibles in a game without a guide learns very quickly, sometimes a guide is nice. Coming a couple years later past this game is Crackdown with all those hidden orbs. I've been through that gamut. I've seen the orbs. They're awful. There's a lot of good YouTube videos about people trying to get the orbs and losing their minds. They had a guide. It wouldn't do it for them. It'll tee you up. If I had to get all 100 packages by myself, I don't think I'd get them all. In sincerity, they're tedious. But this guide says, hey, you get everything. You're ready to go. You're moving and grooving. You've made it. Have fun. You have a rocket launcher. You have a sniper. You have body armor. You've earned it. Go ham. Blow things up. Don't blow up Maria. Or you can. Fail the mission. Try again. But you have the necessary tools and skills that the guide taught you up to this point, and you're ready to roll. The next salient point about this advanced tactic is alternate pathing. The guide says you can roll down the cliff, you can be done with it with about 3 minutes or so left on the clock, and you're good to go. But you don't need those 3 minutes. You'd be able to make it out of it faster with, not necessarily without those 3 minutes, but you're not behooved to use those 3 minutes. The PC guide is built around you following it to a T and giving you the necessary tools to experience the game fully. The PS2 guide operates as almost like a travel pamphlet. The PC guide is going to be your Google Maps with integrated functionality saying, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. The PS2 guide is going to be your paper map. You bought it at the store, you got it in your hands, you looked at it, you see where you could go. The streets might be up to date, they might have some action going on. You'll never know, but it will get you there. It'll be sloppy, it'll be messy, it'll be tough. You will get to the end, and you may miss some things, but that's okay because you made it. The PC guide goes, hey, personalize this. Here you go. Do it this way, or that way. Have fun, collect things, or don't. Doesn't matter. You're wrecking this city. You got this city down. You're the king of Liberty City. The PC guide just has so much more detail. Way more information. Just the general all-rounder better than the PS2 guide. This wraps up the main story portions of GTA 3. You've got Portland, Staten Island, Shoreside Vale. By this point in the guide, when you're headed up to the extra missions, the PS2 guide is at a total of 99 pages. The PC guide is at page 172. That's pretty big. That's almost a whole extra guide in there. And that's for the same game. And they both get you there. Not gonna besmirch the PS2 guide. It still gets you there. It works. But the PC guide has that much more information. The absolute final portion of this guide is the side missions, secrets, and bonus maps sections. This right here is the biggest difference between the PS2 and the PC guide. The PS2 guide has 7 pages dedicated to this endeavor right here. It's a lot of game. 7 may be a little shy, who's to say, but it's got 7 dedicated pages, much love. The PC guide has 56. Now, I've done my time in math, spent my time doing higher order things, got my master's degree. It wasn't a math, but we did math. We did math. All right, we're a math guy. 56 pages divided by 7 pages is 8 times. There's 8 times more content in the PC guide than the PS2 guide on this section alone. So where does that length come from? That length differential comes from the guide explaining how to do all the side quests far deeper than the PS2 guide. For some reason, the PS2 guide doesn't make mention of rampages. I've tried to source online if rampages were new to the PC version, but nothing really came to fruition there. But for some reason, it's just not mentioned. They're just not there. The PC guide, however, lists every single rampage, every rampage location, and a dedicated map to showcase that. Here you can see a list of all the side quests you can possibly do. Well, you can say side quests. Here you see all the additional missions you can undertake, the world missions, so to speak, rather than, say, 4x4 races or RC toys. Rampage challenges, unique jumps, hidden packages, taxi, fire truck, ambulance, vigilantes. Oh my. The PS2 guide, on the other hand, only shows a brief blurb of each potential activity, not including rampages. It shows, hey, you can do the vehicle missions, here's what you get for it, but doesn't really talk you through it beyond what's there. Ambulance, great, doesn't talk you through it. Fire truck, great, doesn't talk you through it. Vigilante, doesn't talk you through it. It lists the things you can do, but it doesn't give you much more than that. The PC guide might be a little overtuned. Not only does it show, hey, rampages, has a map, and it has a list of where they are and what you have to do to them. It goes very deep. I decided to only put 1 page because those pages go on for more than 7 pages. A little bit more than 7 pages here on the PC guide for this. Then the PC guide mentions stunt jumps, where to find them, where to do them. The PS2 guide doesn't make mention of stunt jumps, like at all. So not there. If you find them, great, but there's nothing to know that, hey, you could do them or get something out of them. PC guide, of course, shows you the stunt jumps, where to get them, does actually suggest which vehicles to use. The PC guide not only shows you, hey, this is where they are, shows you screenshots, but it also says, hey, consider using the Mafia Sentinel or a police car to make these jumps happen, because having the various vehicles will make it way easier. The next thing mentioned in the PS2 guide is the hidden packages. The hidden packages gets 3 pages dedicated to them. It gets 3 full map splash pages and a list of what you get for unlocking them all. The PC guide has a hidden packages distributed throughout the chapter saying, hey, do XYZ, and you can get these certain tools. The PS2 guide does not. The PS2 guide simply has it in the back. Hey, here's where you find them. Figure it out. It's nice it lists when you unlock for them, but it doesn't give you much more beyond that. The PC guide, however, shows a whole lot more. It has the full color maps. The PS2 guide has full color maps as well, but it doesn't include screenshots. The PC guide in this regard mirrors what is going to come later in the Vice City and the GTA San Andreas guide by including a number followed by a screenshot where you can get the hidden package. In this regard, I don't believe any errata pages were needed as compared to the San Andreas guide, but it is nice that the revamped version, the PC version of this guide, showcases where they're going to end up eventually. You can see there's so many screenshots here for this section. That first map is just Portland, and it has 2 pages worth of screenshots and much more. So in this regard, the PC guide definitely does a good job of having those different maps be available. The PC guide also does a great job of listing the different vehicle import-export missions. Import-export always drives me mad. Every time I play a GTA game, I get to import-export, and I go, I'll do it, but I'm going to be mad because I have to find the vehicle, take it back, don't get blown up, especially GTA 3, where you get blown up every 2 seconds. The cars have the health of about a modern car. So, you get shot, and then it blows up, and that's that, right? And it drives me up the wall that most guides aren't super extant with it, but the PC guide lists way more compared to the PS2 guide. The PS2 guide simply says, here's where you can find the industrial import-export, and here's what you need to find them all in line. They're not broken up. And if you have trouble finding Mr. Whoopi, here's where you can find it along with the Trash Master. Okay. I mean, that's nice. It gives you a little bit more detail, but nothing too intense. The PC guide, however, lists them very clearly, top to bottom, secure car, moonbeam, la 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 la. It also says, hey, if you have trouble finding some of these vehicles, here's the hard ones, and here's where you can find them. It's great. It gives you a lot more opportunity to find the vehicles using assistance rather than with your own volition. GTA 3 is a pretty sprawling game, and it is pretty nestled street side. Like, there's a lot of streets intertwined with one another, and it's easy to get lost or get trapped or get stuck between an alleyway and guys with rifles. So if you know where to find the vehicles to take them elsewhere, it's way easier. And the PC guide gives you a little bit more detail. A lot bit more detail compared to the PS2 guide. It's nice the PS2 guide has it in there, just listed. It's okay. But the PC guide is way deeper and way more helpful in this regard. The PS2 guide has a dedicated section to what is called secrets, right? Where there's going to be secrets, tips, tricks, and more on how to explore the game, right? On how to get more out of your game than just getting the pickups. The PS2 guide has a single trick, and that trick is the hooker trick. It is the trick where you're able to get a lot of health up to 125 by getting a sex worker in your vehicle. It mentions that the trade-off is that for every 2 points of health you gain, you lose $1. And that's nice. I mean, that's a cool little trick, but to call it secrets with only one secret feels a little intellectually questionable. But there it is. The PC guide, on the other hand, has 5 full pages of secrets. It does start with the hooker trick, right? Starts with that, getting your health back. It also mentions the trick you can park the car in your garage, save, come back to it, and when the door lifts up, your car is ready to go, full health. It does make mention of getting more vehicles in a single garage, which is pretty nice. Always good to have more than one vehicle in your garage. And then, probably the most important trick is getting the Rhino, or the tank. If you can get the tank, you're good to go. Tanks in GTA 3 are really the highlight of the game's open world. There's always a cheat code to put in to get the tanks. I believe it did actually negatively impact your in-game score and made it harder to reach certain goals and achievements therein. Like, you couldn't reach the highest Mafia level if you were to use that cheat. And it does mention good strategies on how to clear out the vigilante missions should you try to get more. The secret section in the PC guide also mentions, hey, you can get The Dodo, you can do flight school, how to land it. It also tells you how to ghost ride the whip. Always a classic. And again, it doesn't say it's really a trick, not even a cheat. It's just like kind of fun that you can do it. And then finally, it makes a list of where you can find some certain items, such as if you enter an ambulance, you get 20 more health. If you enter a police car, you always get a shotgun. If you get enter the enforcer, you get full body armor. You can get a bulletproof car, always nice. And Joey's buggy, if you're feeling like driving after finishing mission 1 for Asuka, you will always have a vehicle. You know, it's nice that this guy does make mention of more than just, hey, if you want, you could, theoretically. We're just saying, you could get a sex worker and get full health. This one actually says, a PC guide actually says, hey, here's a lot more that you could do. I wouldn't really call them secrets in the deepest sense. It doesn't include cheat codes, but that is nice. It gives you options on exploring different ways to interact with the game outside of what is simply listed in the main mission sections. I would be remiss to talk about secrets in PS2 games or secrets in any game from this era without ever making mention of this bad boy. Secret codes from Brady Games. Everyone's favorite Brady Games. Same guys who did the GTA 3 guide right there. Love them. These were a staple that ran alongside ran alongside paper guides per game. These would have a list of cheat codes available to you to use in game. Now, I'm sorry to say I don't actually have access to the GTA 3 cheat codes that would be included in something like this. I got something better, though. I got Scalar, page 146. You got your full health cheat, got your 200,000 cloakies, and your infinite electric bombs cheat. These were incredible for listing cheat codes that you can use in games to kind of get more out of them. GTA 3 is famously all about the cheat codes. If you weren't playing GTA 3 with cheat codes, you weren't playing GTA 3. You just had to use cheat codes. It's a shame the guide doesn't explicitly mention the cheat codes as like, hey, you should do that. But it is cool that there are other tools from the era that would have had the cheat codes. When it comes to the cheat codes, there's very, very, very important ones. Anyone who's ever played the game will know, hey, gotta have these cheat codes. The classic one, of course, is going to be all weapons, which is going to be R2, R2, L1, R2, left, down, right, up, left, down, right, up. Full armor, R2, R2, L1, L2, left, down, right, up, left, down, right, up. Full health, Savior, R2, R2, L1, R1, left, down, right, up, left, down, right, up. You're seeing kind of a pattern here, right? The final classic, everybody needed raise and lower Wadden levels, which are going to be respectively R2, R2, L1, R2, left, right, left, right, left, right. Or R2, R2, L1, R2, up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, it's worth noting as we mess with these, there's an implicit similarity between the full health, full armor, the raise and lower Wadden levels, full weapons. They all follow very similar patterns using the back buttons and the directional pad, which makes sense. I mean, if you're looking for cheat codes, something a developer could put in easily to explore the game, that's the way you're going to want to do it, using those codes. And it's a shame that the guide doesn't mention those cheat codes, just because cheat codes were such an important part of it. That's how it goes, though, right? The final cheat code worth noting, of course, is the Rhino tank. We talked about getting the Rhino. This one's a classic. Circle, 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 R1, L2, L1, triangle, circle, triangle. People would spread these across the playground to go, hey, have you heard this code? Have you heard this code? Have you heard this code? All around the middle schools, code, 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 code. And these right here were your way to get them. The final part of the guide could ironically be seen as the first part of the guide, which is looking at the back cover. Back covers of books are not necessarily where we always start. But if you're looking for a little bit of information as to what a book has to offer, naturally you would go there. The PS2 and PC guide do differ in interesting ways in the back cover, and it behooves us to take a look as to what these differences are. The PS2 guide reads, crime can pay if you survive. 3 vast cities, 6 deadly gangs, and plenty of maniacal and murderous mob bosses. Sound dangerous? Actually, it's a prime opportunity for an enterprising young criminal like yourself. But who should you trust, and who should you whack? We'll show you how to not only prevail, but also profit on this treacherous job by getting rich the dishonest way. Get this guide, or get whacked for free. Finish the job. What to drive, where to go, who to knock off to earn respect and cash in every diabolical mission. Know the route. Timing is critical, and gangsters are breathing down your neck, so you better know the quickest path. We chart your course on street maps. Check the map. Know your way around the town, and you'll always find what you're looking for with our exquisitely detailed city maps. Get the secrets. Vehicle missions, hidden packages, extra power-ups, exclusive cheats, and more. That's, it's relatively, it tells you what to do. It's It's not honestly the most accurate. There aren't really any cheats mentioned in the guide. There's nothing that says use a cheat code. It's just, there's a strategy, I suppose, but it could be better. PC guide, crime does pay if you survive. All the tasty action and mayhem of the PlayStation 2 smash hit now on your PC. Mob bosses want favors, crooked cops want hush money, and street gangs want you dead. Sound dangerous? Actually, it's a prime opportunity for an enterprising young criminal like yourself. We'll show you how to survive and profit in Liberty City's seedy underbelly. Get rich the dishonest way. Finish the job. What to do, where to go, and who to whack to climb the ladder of crime through Portland, Staten Island, and Shoreside Vale. Complete coverage. Coverage of every mission, including side missions, coverage of all 20 rampages, and unique stunt jumps. Get the secrets. 100 hidden packages, every vehicle mission, cool game secrets, access the Rhino, and more. Bonus full-color maps. The keys to Liberty City. You name it. Rampages, weapons, power-ups, hidden packages, unique stunt jumps, secret vehicles, extra missions. You got it. This one's way better. I mean, there's just no question. The PC guide gives you a little bit more detail, tells you a little bit about the game, and doesn't get lost in its minutia of secrets, cheats. It makes the city feel more alive, and it gives you the control of the city in your hands. One part of the guide I never mentioned, because it's not super salient. It's hard to explain sort of what goes on with it. But on the left-hand page, for the vast majority of sections, there exists an image. And it's not a particularly interesting image. It's just like a man's face. But I honestly can't place where that man's from in the game. He might be one of the side characters, maybe just a character model, maybe just concept art. I don't know. But he's there in red on the side of every page, and he scares me. He's in the PS2 guide, he's in the PC guide. He's just sitting there laughing at you. He's laughing at you like he's some kind of Batman Beyond Joker gang member. I don't know what's going on there, but he's got that look of like, I got 17 dead bodies and I'll only tell you about 4. And he's always there in the page looking at you. And it kind of dissuades me from wanting to use the guide. But I'd be remiss to not mention him. He's there in the PS2 guide, there in the PC guide. Probably the biggest strike against both of them. Who is that man? Why is he there? Is he important? Do I know him? Am I him? Is he Vincent? Is he the villain? Is he the main guy? Is that Catalina? That wraps up my thoughts here on the Grand Theft Auto 3 game guide. The key takeaways for the Grand Theft Auto 3 game guide is there are 2 discrete, different, albeit similar game guides that scratch honestly different itches. You'd be hard-pressed to suggest the PS2 guide over the PC guide, given the vast amount of details included in the PC guide, not only within the missions, but the bonus features, better maps, better collectibles, good screenshots. Altogether, a cleaner game guide, better design, better laid out, better page usage. But I gotta say, there's something about the PS2 guide I can't kick. The brevity of the PS2 guide gets you through the game if you're willing to follow it. It's not as clean and it's not as obvious as the PC guide. But in this regard, you'd be hard-pressed for a better travel brochure than the PS2 guide, but the PC guide is more of a direct travel agent, I suppose. The PS2 guide is really good at getting you to your destination, albeit it may take a little more time or you have to put in a little more legwork yourself, whereas the PC guide lays it all out. Here's your itinerary, pop, 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 be there at 8. Leave at 8:30, you're good to go. Zoom. I think they both scratch a different itch. I can't see a world where I would necessarily besmirch the PS2 guide for existing, and that the PS2 guide sets the PC guide up for major successes in the future. But if one were to pick a single game guide for the GTA 3 collection, you gotta go with the PC guide. Now, rather than leave this as just simply a game guide review for GTA 3, I want to, just for a little bit of time, broach the difficult subject of video games with multiple game guides. The reason I settled on GTA 3 is there's really 2 paper game guides. There's the PS2 one, the original, and the PC one, the expanded one. There may be different ones that exist at other times, different languages. There could be some unofficial guides, right? Not even including game FAQs. I mean, sometimes some games did have a lot of different guides for the same game. Some were unofficial, some came out later, some were just PDFs, but they do exist. So I'm not to say these are the only 2 that exist, but these are the 2 common ones you may find in like a used bookstore. But that's not always the case. There's a lot of games with a lot of different game guides, and a lot of those game guides have great variability. One example I ran into, and I regret not buying it when I was in the store, actually. I was at a used game store, and they had a very particular game guide for Super Mario 64. Now, there's a lot of game guides for Super Mario 64. That's a lot of game. Very popular game, very well known. If you haven't played Super Mario 64, you should do yourself a favor and give it a play. You don't have to beat it, but give it a run. Get 30 so stars. You'll get the vibe there. But it was a game guide that was produced by a company I don't necessarily know. And it came out around the time 64 came out, right? It was within about a year or so of that game coming out. But it was published on a small publishing company in, I believe it was Hawaii. Oddly specific region for a game guide to come out. And that's great. That's the case. But that's just like a small publication for that game at that time. Let's consider the one I really want to talk about here. Let's consider the one that blows my mind, and that is going to be Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. If you haven't played Ocarina of Time by now, I can't help you. Great game. Big fan. On my count, I have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 discrete Ocarina of Time game guides. Are some of them re-releases of old ones? Maybe. This only includes English as well, but 8 discrete English game guides that I found like that with different covers and slightly different approaches. So we can take it all the way from the first one out here that I have listed would be the Ocarina of Time Nintendo Player's Guide, right? That's the one that would be like, there's Nintendo Power. I don't have that one. It's pretty cool. Haven't used it. Maybe good. Usually pretty good, right? The one that I always liked is the Perfect Guide by Versus Books. I'm a big Versus Book guy. I think Versus Books is probably my favorite game guide company ever. Some aren't as good as others, but for the most part, they're very condensed for the details they give you, and it's a very rich book. Then there's the N64 Prima Official Strategy Guide. Again, I know we just talked about a Brady Games guide here, so I'm about to get into some wars if we're talking about Prima, but humor me. We'll get through it. That one, again, for N64, can't speak to it, never used it, but it is there. There's also the Brady Games guide. Getting into fights now for the same game. Official. All of these seem to be official, so I'm trying to understand which one's the actual official guide, right? But all of these have, for the same game, different strategies, different tips, different things, all right there. Same game. Then there's one I didn't realize existed. There's another Nintendo Power Guide for the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition on GameCube. I happen to have a copy of that game. Big fan of that game. I think it's great, but I don't know how you would have complete strategies for 4 games, but hey, it's got Ocarina. Gotta include it. Then there's a Prima Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time GameCube guide. Is it a re-release of the N64 guide? If you look at the authors in the bottom left, the answer is possible, but I personally don't know if it includes Master Quest at all. The only one that I know that had Master Quest is the next one, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, also by Prima. I know that one had a Master Quest component. I remember picking that guide up. I had played the game for years before that, but I was like, let's do it. And again, another discrete guide for the same game. And finally, the 6 official Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition guides in the Legend of Zelda Treasure Chest collection. One of those, I think it's the green one, would be my guess, because purple is Majora's Mask color. Don't worry about it. One of those is a Prima guide as well for Ocarina of Time. I don't know if it's the 3D. I think it's a 3D version, and it might be the same one as the one there. But these are still 8 discrete releases for one game. One game has that many guides, and this isn't even touching the game FAQs, the different language guides, the eventual YouTube guides, right? All these smaller niche guides that come out for this one game. And so when you look at a paperback game guide, something as simple as just a PS2 guide here, I mean, this is one of 2 that I know of for that. Ocarina's got 8. There's no guarantee, some games have 10 or so. I mean, once you get into the later 2000s, right, you start to consolidate to maybe 2 paperback guides, and then it really dials down to 1 by 2010. But there's still so many guides out there for one game. I know Papa C, YouTuber out there, big Pokemon guy, Nintendo YouTuber out there, does a series regarding playing through Nintendo games and Pokemon games using game guides. And for one Pokemon game, there could be 3, 4, 5, 6 different game guides. I mean, for Pokemon Gold, I can think of like 3 off the top of my head that exist. And that's just the paper ones. There's, again, game FAQs, and we're just going in a loop here. This is my little foray into more than one guide for one game. Even the same author had different strategies for another guide. The possibilities here are not endless. There's a finite amount of them, but it's way more complex than just you have the guide or you don't. And so the Wild West of game guides is where we've landed here. We've established in the first video the form, the function, what makes a game guide acceptable, good, fantastic. Now we've established, hey, sometimes there's more than one guide for a game. Which one do you pick? And the answer is, which one did you own? For the next part, I want to cover perceptually useless game guides. Not Final Fantasy IX. Not this one. No. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I want to cover two games that definitely should not have a game guide. And even though they have a game guide, they're actually better than you think they are. Thank you all for listening to this video on Grand Theft Auto 3. Big fan of GTA 3, big fan of Tim, the OBGYN. A lot of good works there. If you liked what you saw here, be sure to check out the first part of this series, where we talk about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and setting up the game guide. And then if you want more, check out this link right here for the playlist where I play Call of Duty 1 from 2003 using the game guide by Bart Farkas. I got opinions. It's all live stream, so it's not cut. So have fun there. They're longer videos. But thumb around, see what you find. Appreciate you all hanging out there. Catch y'all for part 3 of this game guide series.